They didn't hit me. They didn't scream at me. They did something far worse. They made me feel like I didn't exist right inside my own home. At first, it was just silence. That strange kind of silence that doesn't feel empty. It feels intentional. Like everyone in the room silently agreed you don't matter, but nobody ever says it out loud. Then came the jokes. "Oh wow, she actually served that?" "Sorry, I forgot." She tries her best. And then the laughter. Not loud, not obvious. Just enough to sting. Just enough to make me feel smaller every single time. But what hurt the most? My husband never said a word. He would sit there, staring at his plate, acting like none of it was happening. Like my humiliation was just background noise in his perfect family dinner. And every night I went to bed asking myself the same question. Am I overreacting, or am I really just not worth defending? But it wasn't one moment that broke me. It was repetition. The same smirks. The same dismissive looks. The same quiet way they erased me without ever raising their voices. Until one night, I overheard something that changed everything. A whisper in the hallway. "She still doesn't know, right?" No, and she never should. I froze, because in that second, something inside me shifted. This wasn't just humiliation anymore. This was a plan, and I was never meant to belong here in the first place. My name is Hannah Mitchell. I'm 28 years old, and I used to believe love could survive anything. I married into what looked like the perfect family. Polished, wealthy, respectable. The kind of family people admire from the outside. But behind closed doors, I was never really one of them. Not even close. To them, I was more like a guest who overstayed her welcome. Except nobody had the decency to tell me to leave. And I didn't understand it at first. I thought if I tried harder, if I was more patient, more helpful, more perfect, they would finally accept me. I couldn't have been more wrong. If you enjoyed this story, like and subscribe to Betrayal Ledger for more. The house I moved into with my husband, Ethan Clark, looked like something out of a magazine. Modern, expensive, immaculate, but it didn't feel warm. It felt controlled. Ethan used to be different before we got married. He used to listen. He used to laugh easily. He used to make me feel like I mattered. But after the wedding, something shifted. Not all at once, slowly, quietly. Like I was watching him drift away without even realizing it. His mother, Margaret Clark, ran the house like she ran everything else. Quietly, firmly, and without ever needing to raise her voice. She never insulted me directly. She didn't need to. She had this way of speaking that sounded polite, but always landed like a knife. "Sweetheart, I think you missed a spot." I'm sure Ethan prefers things done differently. I'm certain you'll learn eventually. His father, Richard Clark, barely acknowledged me unless absolutely necessary. And when he did, it felt less like conversation and more like evaluation. But Ethan was the hardest part, because he was there, but he wasn't with me anymore. And I kept telling myself the same thing over and over. It's just adjustment. Families are like this at first. So I stayed quiet, polite, helpful. I ignored the knot forming in my chest, the one telling me something wasn't right. It started with small things. Things you can easily excuse until they start stacking up. At dinner. "Oh, Hannah, you use salt again?" I thought we told her Ethan doesn't like that. Nobody looked at me when they said it. They looked at each other like I wasn't even part of the table. Then came the comparisons. Ethan's cousin's wife was so much more graceful. A neighbor's daughter was better raised. Even the housekeeper was praised for attention to detail. It was never direct, never obvious, just constant enough to make me doubt myself. Even worse, Ethan never stepped in. One night I asked him quietly in our bedroom, "Do you think your mom actually likes me?" He didn't even look up from his phone. "She's just old school, don't take it personally." That should have comforted me. Instead, it made something in my stomach sink. Because it meant I was on my own in this, completely on my own. There were no rules spoken out loud, but somehow I was always breaking them. If I stayed in my room too long, are you avoiding us? If I spent too much time downstairs, you don't have to force yourself. No matter what I did, it was wrong. My phone usage started feeling monitored. Conversations would stop when I entered rooms. Even my clothing was quietly criticized. "That color doesn't suit you." "You look tired lately." I stopped calling my friends as much. Not because I didn't want to, but because every time I did, I felt like I was doing something wrong. Ethan started coming home later. Always work, always vague. And every time I asked questions, I got the same answer. "You're overthinking it, Hannah." That sentence slowly became the cage I lived in. "You're overthinking." Until I started believing it myself. One night at dinner, I said something small. Something harmless. About a news story I'd read. No one responded. not even a glance. A few seconds passed. Then Margaret smoothly cut in. Anyway, as I was saying, like I hadn't spoken at all. Like I wasn't even there. That night, I locked myself in the bathroom and stared at my reflection. And I didn't recognize myself anymore. Not because I looked different, but because I couldn't find myself in my own eyes. I started thinking things I was scared to admit. If I disappeared, would anything actually change here? And worse, I think they'd prefer it. That was the moment I stopped crying out loud. Because even my emotions felt inconvenient in that house. I found it by accident. Ethan's study, a folder left slightly open. Inside, printed emails, messages, notes, and my name. Not as a wife, but as a temporary arrangement. A phase, a step in a plan. Then I saw a message from Margaret to Ethan. She still doesn't know. Good. Keep it that way until everything is finalized. My hands started shaking. Finalized? I kept reading. Page after page revealed something I never saw coming. This marriage wasn't just emotional manipulation. It was structured, calculated, legal, financial, and I wasn't a partner in it. I was part of a plan I was never informed about. Then I saw the line that broke something inside me completely. Once everything is complete, she will comply. She won't have another choice. No other choice. That's when it hit me. My humiliation wasn't random. It was preparation. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I waited. That evening, I placed every document on the dining table. Margaret saw them first. Her expression didn't change. But something in her eyes did. Ethan walked in behind her and stopped cold. Silence filled the room. Then I spoke. Explain this to me. No one answered. Richard finally spoke, calm and distant. This is not your concern. Something inside me cracked, but not in the way they expected. Because suddenly, I wasn't afraid anymore. My concern, I said. I'm in every single page of this. Ethan stepped forward. Hannah, just listen. No, I cut him off. You listen, for once. My voice didn't shake. That surprised even me. I want to know what I am in this house. Because I clearly was never your wife. Margaret finally spoke, almost gently. You were chosen carefully. That word hit harder than anything else. Chosen. Not loved, not married, not valued. Chosen. Everything came out after that. Calmly, coldly. Like it was normal business. The marriage, the structure, the intention behind it all. Ethan finally admitted it. I thought you would understand eventually. That was it. No apology. No remorse. Just expectation. And in that moment, something inside me went completely still. Not broken. Clear. I wasn't part of your family, I said quietly. I was part of your plan. I pushed my chair back. I'm done. Margaret's voice softened. You don't have anywhere else to go. That should have scared me. It didn't, because staying was worse than anything waiting outside that house. I left that night. No dramatic exit, no shouting, no collapse, just silence. The same silence I had been living in for months, except this time, I controlled it. Weeks later, I learned everything. The agreements, the structure, the manipulation they thought I would never uncover. But none of it mattered anymore. Because they underestimated one thing. What happens when someone they erased finally remembers who they are? I rebuilt my life piece by piece, slowly, quietly, on my own terms. And one day I realized something I'll never forget. I wasn't trapped. I was just convinced I was. And the moment I stopped believing that was the moment I finally got my life back.